These Dallas Cowboys, man, they know how to entertain me. They win in ways that you wouldn't expect, and they lose in ways you wouldn't expect. But at the end of the day, it's all a part of being a part of Cowboys Nation. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and dive straight into this game versus Jacksonville. What happened, why the Cowboys lost, and ultimately, what's the path forward? Let's get into it. Now, look, I understand that there are plenty of Dallas Cowboys fans upset. However, your Dallas Cowboys are going back to the postseason for the first time back-to-back since 06-07. Definitely an accomplishment under Mike McCarthy and this coaching staff. Albeit, the loss is a very painful one. The Cowboys are in the postseason, which is what you need to do. Get into the postseason, get healthy at the right time, play good football at the right time, and then you just see what happens. Now, we'll get into all of that in the later parts of this video and some things I want to get off my chest. But before we go into all that, we're going to go through a game summary, then we're going to go through some details, and I'm using an article here from CBS Sports to go over the game, so we'll go through that, then we'll discuss. The Dallas Cowboys appeared to be on the verge of accomplishing something they haven't done in 15 years, make the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. However, the Jacksonville Jaguars forced them to wait at least until Sunday Night Football's result, thanks to their 40-34 overtime win. The Jaguars trailed 27-10 before finishing the game on a 30-7 run. They sealed the win with their defense as safety Rayshawn Jenkins hauled in his career-high second interception off a deflected Dak Prescott pass. He took it 52 yards for the game-winning touchdown. The play was incredibly clutch since the defense needed a stop to bail out their offense after they went 3 and out at the start of the overtime period with the Cowboys nearing midfield. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence put together the signature game of his career so far, throwing a career-high 4 touchdown passes in addition to 318 yards and an interception on 27-42 passing. Following a 53-yard field goal from kicker Brett Maher that increased the Cowboys' lead to a total of 17, that being 27-10, Lawrence threw a touchdown on 3 consecutive drives. The first coming off a career-long 59-yard touchdown strike to Zay Jones, a 10-yard touchdown toss to wide receiver Marvin Jones, and finally a 3-yard touchdown throw to Jones once again, that to help the Jaguars take the lead in the fourth quarter. With the go-ahead passing touchdown to Zay Jones, they made the score 31-27. Lawrence became the first Jaguars player with a passing touchdown on 3 straight drives since Blake Bortles in 2015. Jones' 3 receiving touchdowns set a new career high and surpassed the season total of 2 that he accumulated in the season's first 14 weeks. Lawrence has now thrown 14 touchdowns and only 1 interception in his last 6 games, dating back to Week 9, making him one of the most dialed-in quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott nearly played well enough to win despite the fact that he threw 2 interceptions. He threw for 256 yards and 3 scores, including a go-ahead 13-yard strike to wide receiver Noah Brown with just little over 3 minutes left in the game. That gave Dallas a 34-31 lead. On the very next drive, Lawrence escaped pressure and sprinted down the field inside the Cowboys 40, but Dallas safety Jaron Kearse came in behind to knock the football loose. And of course, linebacker Micah Parsons jumped on top of the ball, swinging the game in the Cowboys' favor. However, the Jaguars defense came up with a humongous 3 and out, and especially with a Dallas Cowboys pass on 3rd down to allow the clock to stop and save a Jaguars timeout. Getting Lawrence the ball back with one last chance, trailing 34-31 with 1:13 to go and 1 timeout of his own, of course, from their own 29. Lawrence delivered, leading a 7-play drive that gained 41 yards to set up kicker Riley Patterson for the game-tying 48-yard field goal that forced overtime. The Dallas defense didn't get out of Jacksonville unscathed, losing linebacker Leighton Vander Esch with a neck injury and a defensive lineman Dorrance Armstrong to a knee injury, despite the fact that Dorrance Armstrong did in fact return to the game in overtime. Despite defensive coordinator Dan Quinn will have to put together one of the best coaching performances of his career in order to slow down NFL MVP candidate and Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts in Week 16. Now look, I understand that there again are plenty of people that are pissed off about the loss, and understandably so. You had a 17-point lead squandered within minutes, and then on top of that, the mistakes you made to get to that point did not help and put your team in the situation to lose. However, there were a couple of things that I noticed in this game that were first positives, negatives, and of course I just don't understand why this keeps happening some of the times. So we'll start with the positives because I think that's important. Listen, I understand that people were pissed that Dak throwing the 2 interceptions, but I'm going to just keep it real with you guys. Dak Prescott played so well this game that honestly the only bad play he had, if you want to include the 2 bad plays, were the interception where he got hit on his arm as he was trying to find Dalton Schultz. Now, I'm not saying he should have thrown the ball and the pressure really didn't help there, and he shouldn't have thrown it. But again, that affected that, and that was really the only bad pass he threw the whole game. Yet everyone's bitching and complaining like he had a terrible game. He did not have a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. You know, when you go 23 for 30, and realistically you only throw 1, maybe 2 bad passes, the interception numbers are a bit misleading, especially with the last interception coming off a Noah Brown pop-up. If he catches that ball, the Cowboys probably go on to win the game. They would be at midfield, and they just needed 1 score to win. Odds are they make Brett Maher go kick a field goal, and they try to win the game, right? And if Noah Brown catches that, even if it's 4th and 1, Dallas probably goes for it anyway, and I'm not complaining about that. Now, look, the other thing, too, is that I look at how the Cowboys worked offensively, and at the beginning of the game, it looked really well with how their play design looked and all that other stuff, and then it just came all crumbling down. Now, getting into the defense was doing good to a certain point and making clutch plays, but when you give up 34 points, that ain't good. Oh, well, Space Cowboy, they gave him a short field position. Yeah, on, what, 1 possession, realistically? So I kind of find that hard to believe that you can tell me that, oh, well, Space Cowboy, it's Dak Prescott's fault in the offense. And yes, you know, I'm not saying that they're fully unscathed, and again, we'll get into that in a moment, but that's something to point out. I want to make it clear. Come here real quick. Kelvin Joseph needs to be gone. I do not care what cap considerations, implications, I don't give a flying fuck. Get that man off my baseball team. Get that man off my football team right now. He is a liability. He is terrible, and I don't care. He has not gotten any better, and he's the reason, realistic, why he gave up 2 touchdowns. He gave up the big touchdown that really swung momentum in the Jags' favor. So go fuck yourself, Kelvin Joseph. Seriously, you are not supposed to be on this football team. Get the fuck off my team, and we can go find someone else to play the position better. And Anthony Brown, I understand that he got shit on a lot by fans, but I'm telling you guys right now, I was mortified when Anthony Brown got hurt, because this is exactly why. And this is going to hurt Dallas moving forward unless this guy gets his head out of his ass, which I doubt. Well, you can play Rayshawn Wright, but Rayshawn Wright, and Deron Bland, while he did have the interception on the outside, he did struggle a little bit, but I'm done. Kelvin Joseph, Boss Man Fat, what was it? I saw Kelly Canine over on Twitter. Please go follow him. He's got fantastic content on Twitter. He called him, Burnt Man Toast. It was it was really good. Please, I recommend you go follow him for more additional content on the Cowboys, especially entertaining stuff there. But look, at the end of the day, he was very much so a liability defensively, and he definitely cost you. But another thing, your pass rush, man, where was it? Where was your pass rush? It nearly got home. Guess what? You would wrap around, can't tackle. You can't get him down, and that result, I believe that actually was one of the reasons why in the later parts of the game why they were able to score, because we weren't able to get to Trevor Lawrence, right? And I said this in the pregame video. I said that you need to be weary of their very quick strikes and scores, and Dallas fell right into that trap. You know, and I... Listen, the record I have said, it is very misleading because this team's playing a lot better, but this is no excuse. You needed to beat this team, because if you wanted to have a chance of even winning the division or any pride or even, hell, to get into the postseason, you need to win this game. This was an important game for you, and you didn't win the game. Why? Because offensively, you stalled. Yes, Dak Prescott did lead you on a almost game-winning, I should say, drive. In overtime, you know, the whole interception thing, I don't want to hear shit that it's Dak Prescott's fault. And I'm not just saying that to defend him, because, by the way, he had a horrific interception that set the Jags up with a touchdown. But I am just so done with individuals that are that brain dead, that don't understand the concept of, I don't know, context. Like, come on, guys. Listen, if I throw a ball to you and it's in your chest and it pops up and you can't catch it, is it my fault? Is it your fault if you throw a pass and someone can't catch it if it hits them in the chest? No. Context matters, people. And listen, these wide receivers for the Cowboys, there's a reason why they brought in T.Y. Hilton, and it pissed me off. It pissed me off so much that you bring in T.Y. Hilton. He's got a week to get acclimated, and it shows why you added him. Noah Brown can only do so much for you. I'm not trying to disrespect. Listen, he's doing what he can for what talent level he brings, but this is exactly why I get mad at the Cowboys for doing minimal moves. Jalen Tolbert, if he was slightly better, right? I didn't even think I saw James Washington out there. So that's a problem too. And I understand that it's a bit of a rambling here, but I need to get these thoughts out because this is a part of this game, folks. And look, the main thing too is your defense isn't looking the greatest. Dude, 40 goddamn points. Well, you could argue, well, really 34 points, right? I just don't know what to say, dude. Like, you put up enough points to win, but I don't want to hear shit. Micah Parsons, you know what he said? Hey, we ain't giving up another 14-point lead. Oh, yeah, you didn't give up a 14-point lead, my man. You guys gave up a 17-point lead. Oh, well, Space Cowboy, they gave up a touchdown, that. I don't want to hear it, dude. They gave up 2 additional touchdowns aside from that. It's not just the offense's fault, right? And so that's something that scares me moving forward, that while Dallas has clinched the postseason spot, you got 3 games to figure this out, guys. You got 3 games to get your asses in gear. You know, Brett Maher's great. That's awesome. Kevontae Turpin had a solid return. But you can't run the ball on, like, this is the part that pissed me off the most too, was that Kellen Moore really is terrible at situational football. Now listen, I think Kellen is a smart individual. I know some people find it hard to believe, but come here when I say this. I personally think that when you really look at it, Kellen can scheme things up. The problem is he gets a bit arrogant sometimes, and sometimes it feels like he's forcing things, and I hate it, right? Like, I'm telling you, if Kellen was a little bit less arrogant with his play calling, I think we'd be just fine. But look, the other part of it is Mike McCarthy needs to come across and be like, listen, man, you need to get your shit together. And that's something he doesn't do, whether it's the Joneses or anything like that. So again, this is the goal. Right, and I'm moving past this game. I was worried about the game from some point. I think Jacksonville broke a streak where they lost 20 straight to 20 straight NFC opponents. Guess who they won it against and broke that streak against? You know who, us. And then here we are sitting here now that we have the Eagles on deck for Christmas Eve, and I'm saying to myself, well, it doesn't really matter at this point, right? You know, sure, people will tune in to see the 13-1 Eagles take on the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys, but both teams are in the postseason at this point, so the stakes aren't super high because realistically, all Philly has to do is beat the Cowboys. They win the NFC East, or if Dallas wins, I think all Philly has to do is just win one more game and they clinch the NFC East. And look, I get it that people can look at this entire race to the playoffs and all this other stuff, and some people have differing opinions. Some people will be like, okay, it's okay. Other people will say, no, it's not. For me, this is where I stand. Look, just get healthy. Just get healthy and do not screw this up. You know, the last thing we want to do is start sustaining more and more injuries as the postseason starts to get closer and closer, because then we're really going to be screwed. But another thing I wanted to say real quick as well before we get out of here is that there are Cowboys fans, and this is what kind of annoys me, is this annoying hypocrisy. Now, I will admit that my opinions change, you know, as the season rolls on, which is normal, and I acknowledge that, and I'm not always correct, and, you know, I will let you know when I'm wrong, right? My problem is that there are Cowboys fans that were bitching about us being way too conservative with play calling. Now we're way too aggressive with the play. Like, guys, listen, I would tell you this. I'd rather be over-aggressive than overly conservative. Why? Because when you're overly aggressive, at least you're trying, right? Like with the Noah Brown third down play that happened, I understand that plenty of people want to, like, get mad at Mike McCarthy. Well, why did you call that? You know, you burned the time. Dude, listen, I'm telling you right now, if we ran the ball and we lost the game the way we did, people would be bitching about, well, we should have tried to go for the win and there's no way of winning it. People will try to find a way to shit on it either way. Now, again, whether you agree with the decision or not is one thing, but hindsight's 2020, and I guarantee you that if the same thing happened with how the game ended, we just ran the ball and made the Jags lose their last time out. And that's the other thing. That final the game tying drive for the Jacksonville Jaguars was complete bullshit. And I don't like it that the Cowboys put themselves in that position, because here's what happened, right? The Jags have one timeout, right? So they're driving down the field. What happens is that the officials stopped the play clock to review it, and they didn't do any time off, because if you actually go back and you watch how these games work, go watch Sunday Night Football towards the end. What happened? They were still in bounds, and they had to do a 10-second runoff because it was under 10, I think it was like under 2 minutes or whatever the case may be. That never happened for Dallas. And so you had that happen. Then you had the situation where they were tackled in bounds. They were ruled in bounds. Then the officials, the Jacksonville Jaguars call their timeout, right? Then what they do is then they review it, give them their timeout back, even though I thought that they were still in bounds regardless of the fact. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars managed to drive down the field and win the game. Oh, well, Space Cowboys, they didn't have the timeout, that wouldn't have happened, and this and that. You don't know that. You don't know that. And I get that whole line of thinking. But what pisses me off about that is that they got 2 free timeouts, basically. They just line up. No time was taken off the clock. And I guarantee you that if they did that same ruling, and I could be wrong there, and if I am wrong, please let me know. If they did that same ruling, the game would have been over. And I said that. I said that if the refs actually did their job properly, and they didn't do 2 goddamn stoppages of play, the Cowboys would have won that game. They would have won the game, and I don't care what people say about that. But we're 10-4. That's it. That is it. And that's just my main thing on it. There were things that did irk me in the game with the refs, with how the Cowboys did certain things. And I'm letting that out here in this therapy session, basically. But at the end of the day, guys, guess what? You're 10-4. You're in the postseason. And what matters the most? You get in the postseason and you see what happens. Dallas has some games to clean things up, and they do have the ability to win games in the postseason. They have the team available, and I think that if you beat Philadelphia, which I think they're a 1-point favorite, and I guess the odds will move in favor of Philadelphia as we get closer. Look, I think Dallas is fine as of the moment. I don't care what happens for the rest of this regular season. The Cowboys did their job. You're in the postseason. All you have to do now is get healthy, play decent football, and you pray to God you have a chance. The Bucs lost today, and they were up 17-3, and they lost the game, I think 20 or 34-17 or something like that. I mean, who knows? I have a really bad feeling about this, and at the end of the day, let's just enjoy the remainder of this season. I didn't think we'd be at this point. I didn't think Dallas would make the postseason, let alone win I understand they wouldn't win the division, but getting to the postseason nonetheless. Your Cowboys are back there. And with that being said, I do hope you enjoyed this post-game recap, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys? Have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.